In this video, you will learn various wiring procedures for the three-phase inverter with Synergy technology. Let's begin by connecting the Synergy units to the Synergy Manager. All operations are performed using the Synergy Manager. There is no reason at all to open any of the Synergy units. Each cable has a label clearly indicating the corresponding Synergy unit. Locate the Synergy Manager cables that are intended for the left side Synergy unit. It's important to connect the Synergy Manager cables to the respective Synergy units to ensure the Synergy units are correctly recognised by the supporting system software. Connect the DC cables to the DC plus and DC minus connectors. So first thing, you need to compress the flexible conduit which protects the DC cables. By doing this, you'll expose the positive and negative DC terminals coming from the Synergy Manager. Once connected, decompress the flexible conduit, insert it into the retainer and connect the clips to hold it in place. Then, connect the communication cable to the communication connector. Make sure that the arrow on the cable is facing you to avoid any damage to the pins. When connecting the AC cable, pay attention to the 2-pin alignment guides. Match them up with the 2-pin alignment grooves in the AC connector and push the cable in. Next, rotate the AC cable connector clockwise to fasten it and use the supplied locking ring to secure it in place. Now repeat the same process for the remaining Synergy units. Now it's time to connect the DC cables to the Synergy Manager. Make sure that power isn't connected before you touch the cover. If your Synergy Manager has a DC safety switch, ensure that it is in the off position. To allow for various cable routes, conduit or gland size, the DC cable access plate comes without pre-drilled holes. Gently loosen the 8 screw bolts and gently remove the DC cable access plate. Drill the correct size holes for the corresponding cable gland or conduit, ensuring that the holes are located within the regions of the DC cable access plate illustrated. Ensure that the DC access plate is free from swarf or drilling debris. Replace the DC access plate using the 8 screw bolts. Locate the cable gland or conduit glands into the holes drilled in the DC access plate. For the solar PV array earth cables, locate and terminate these onto the earthing bar at the bottom left of the DC terminal blocks. Loosen all of the terminal hex block screw nuts from each of the DC plus and DC minus entries. Secure the cable to the relevant DC terminal blocks in accordance with the block labels. For cable size 25mm CSA, tighten to 5 Nm. For cable of 35mm to 50mm CSA, tighten to 8 Nm using a Torx head driver. We've now completed the DC connections. Let's move on to the AC and earth connections. Like with the DC, to allow for various cable routes, conduit or gland sizes, the AC access plate comes without any pre-drilled holes. Now remove the AC terminal protection cover and locate AC terminal blocks for the L1, L2, L3 and neutral, as well as the protective earth terminal. If you have a 5-wire AC cable with protective earth inside, follow these steps. Locate the AC gland. We recommend connecting the protective earth wire first before connecting the rest of the AC conductors. Loosen the protective earth terminal fixation screw and place the protective earth wire into its terminal. Use a 15 Nm screwdriver to tighten the terminal. Next, for the AC conductors, once stripped back, place heat shrink and 1-hole compression lug for 4 of the AC conductors. The lugs must have a maximum width of 33mm, a maximum thickness of 7mm and the bolt hole size of 10mm. loosen the terminal block screw nuts and washers, place the lug and secure the conductors to the terminal blocks with a torque wrench setting of 21 Nm. Once complete, replace the AC terminal block protective cover and now close the AC gland connector. Now it's time to configure the inverter communications. To start with, remove the communications board cover and we'll start by setting the monitoring communications. Use one of the following connectivity methods to monitor your inverter online: Ethernet, Wi-Fi or cellular. In this video, we'll demonstrate how to connect the Ethernet cable. To start, you can use a shielded Ethernet Cat6 cable or above. Locate the two communication glands at the bottom of the Synergy Manager. Open the communication gland and remove the seal, and then remove one of the white plugs from the seal and insert the cable through the opening. Next, insert the seal with the cable back into the communication gland and crimp one RJ45 connector, and then plug the cable into the RJ45 socket located on the left-hand side of the communications board. Then close communication gland 1 and plug the other side of the Ethernet cable into the Ethernet router. Your inverter is connected now to the internet. If you have multiple inverters or devices on site, you'll need to set the RS485 connections to enable the site communications. Let's see how it's done. Locate the RS485 terminals and then prepare a Cat6 or above 3-wire shielded twisted pair cable. Open the communications gland and remove the seal, and remove one of the white plugs from the seal. Insert the cable through the opening. Next, insert the seal with the cable back into the communication gland 2. Then pull out the RS485 terminal block and insert the cables into the channels B, A and G. We recommend using the blue cable for terminal B, white blue for terminal A and then brown cable for terminal G. Tighten the pin screws and check the wires are fully inserted so they cannot be pulled out easily. Connect the other end of the RS485 to the next inverter in the bus and continue the daisy chain of inverters until you've connected the last inverter. Lastly, move the SW1 termination to the on position of the first and last inverter. Now it's time to place the Synergy Manager cover back on. Firstly, attach the Synergy Manager cover and then use a 3.5 Nm torque screwdriver to tighten the 6 bolts in the following sequence: top centre, bottom centre, top left, bottom right, top right and finally bottom left. You're all set? Please join us in the next video of the series where we'll show you how to pre-commission the 3-phase inverter with Synergy technology up to 120 kilowatts.